Chapter 13 of Plunkitt of Tammany Hall, a series of very plain talks on very practical politics. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Mike Vendetti. Plunkitt of Tammany Hall, a series of very plain talks on very practical politics by George Washington Plunkitt. Chapter 13 on Municipal Ownership. I am for municipal ownership on one condition, that the civil service law be repealed. It's a grand idea, the city, the railroads, the gasworks, and all that. Just see how many thousands of new places there would be for the workers in Tammany. Why, there would be almost enough to go around if no civil service law stood in the way. My plan is this. First, to get rid of that infamous law, and then go ahead and, by degrees, get municipal ownership. Some of the reformers are saying that municipal ownership won't do, because it would give a lot of patronage to the politicians. How those fellows mix things up when they argue. They're given the strongest argument in favor of municipal ownership when they say that. Who is better fitted to run the railroads and the gas plants and the ferries than the men who make a business of looking after the interests of the city? Who is more anxious to serve the city? Who needs the jobs more? Look at the dock department. The city owns the docks, and how beautiful Tammany manages them. I can't tell you how many places they provide for our workers. I know there is a lot of talk about dock graft, but that talk comes from the outs. When the Republicans had the docks under Low and Strong, you didn't hear them saying anything about graft, did you? No, they just went in and made hay while the sun shone. That's always the case. When the reformers are out, they raise the yell that Tammany men should be sent to jail. When they get in, they're so busy keeping out of jail themselves that they don't have no time to attack Tammany. All I want is that municipal ownership be postponed till I get my bill repealin' the civil service law before the next legislature. It would be all a mess if every man who wanted a job would have to run up against a civil service examination. For instance, if a man wanted a job as motorman on a surface car, it's 10 to 1 that they would ask him, who wrote the Latin grammar, and if so, why did he write it? How many years were you at college? Is there any part of the Greek language you don't know? State all you don't know and why you don't know it. Give a list of all the sciences with full particulars about each one and how it came to be discovered. Write out word for word the last 10 decisions of the United States Supreme Court and show if they conflict with the last 10 decisions of the police courts of New York City. Before the would-be motorman left the civil service room, the chances are he would be a raving lunatic anyhow. I wouldn't like to ride on his car. Just here I want to say one last final word about civil service. In the last 10 years I have made an investigation which I've kept quiet till this time. Now I have all the figures together, and I'm ready to announce the result. My investigation was to find out how many civil service reformers and how many politicians were in state prisons. I discovered that there was 40% more civil service reformers among the jailbirds. If any legislative committee wants the detailed figures, I'll prove what I say. I don't want to give the figures now, because I want to keep them to back me up when I go to Albany to get the civil service law repealed. Don't you think that when I've had my inning, the civil service law will go down, and the people will see that the politicians are all right, and that they ought to have the job of running things when municipal ownership comes? One thing more about municipal ownership. If the city owned the railroads, etc., salaries would be sure to go up. Higher salaries is the cryin' need of the day. Municipal ownership would increase them all along the line and would stir up such patriotism as New York City never knew before. You can't be patriotic on a salary that just keeps the wolf from the door. Any man who pretends he can will bear watching. Keep your hand on your watch and pocketbook when he's about. But when a man has a good fat salary, He finds himself humming Hail Columbia all unconscious, and he fancies, when he's riding in a trolley car, that the wheels are always saying, "Yankee Doodle came to town." I know how it is myself. When I got my first good job from the city, I bought up all the firecrackers in my district to salute this glorious country. I couldn't wait for the 4th of July. I got the boys on the block to fire them off for me, and I felt proud of being an American. For a long time after that I used to wake up nights singing the Star Spangled Banner. End of chapter 13.